what you see on TV and movies and books is fiction. Right. So in real life, there are the easy cases and then there are the hard cases. And sometimes you just have to stop and take a recess, like you said, and in the hard cases. And you may have to research the law, and you can ask the lawyers for the law because they can be very helpful. They can help give you the law, and they can help present the facts and the evidence. But sometimes you just need to take time to step back and look at it. And that's why I always like to read everything like the day ahead, if I could, whatever I had, so I could think about it overnight and have some time to think about it. That can be very helpful on the difficult cases. The easy cases, no, but there's still a lot of difficult cases. And you definitely do need times when you have to try to figure it out. And, we are not all knowing. We are not all powerful. We are human beings doing our best. And at least when we're doing our best and we know that we have to try to be fair and not be biased against anybody, then when you know this and you're doing your best to do, and you work really hard and read all the law, you read all the cases, that's the best you can do. And then there's a safety net. There's a court of appeals. So if we screw up, and I got to sit on the Court of Appeals for a couple of months, and it was really interesting. So if we do screw up, they can catch it. And then there are higher courts. As long as you have good judges and good justices who are trying hard and they're right and they're being fair to both sides, it should work. It's a good system. It's as good a system as I've seen.
Order in the court.
Hey, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. It's the Author Podcast, where we get to meet amazing people from around the world, hear their journey, hear them tell their story, and be inspired as well. And I'm excited to have Janet on the podcast today. It's interesting to hear and see and meet people that you might not normally meet in your day-to-day based on what Janet's background is and what she's done as a career. She's a writer and author, and she's got a great book, A Judge's Tale. It's out, and you got to go check out her website. It's amazing as well. We're going to approach the bench, everyone. Janet, welcome to the podcast. Nice to have you here.
Thank you, Dave. It's nice to be here.
Excellent. This is really fun for me. I'm excited to have you on. It's an honor, Your Honor, to have you here. How's that? Was that good?
That was perfect. Just perfect.
Okay. All right. Okay. We'll go with
But since I'm retired, you don't have to say that. You can just say Janet.
Okay. I know, but I just love that. I think that's really good. It's a pleasure to meet you this way than maybe in the past when you were up there in all of your amazing stuff with the big gavel and everything. I like meeting you this way. This is a little more relaxed for me.
Right.
I don't have any legal counsel with me, so we're good.
I don't think you need it.
No, we're good? Okay, good. I love it. Good. Janet, tell everybody, you live in a couple of different places, but tell everybody where you are today.
Today I'm in San Diego, California, and I'm here most of the time, but my second husband is Canadian, so we spend I spend almost a half a year in Victoria, Canada. He spends more. So he's there a little more than 6 months, and I'm here more than 6 months.
Okay. Excellent. Well, there you go. You get a little bit of Canadian there. That's always nice to add to
quite
the
a
mix,
bit.
Right?
Two beautiful places near the water on the West Coast. I mean, it's just, there's nothing nicer. I just love it.
It's amazing. Okay, so Janet, we have authors who listen to the show. They come here looking for inspiration from somebody further down the path than they are. They're just starting. Maybe it's the new year for them. They're going to write a book this year, but they're just like, where do I even start? Like I'm trying to get my motivation. I'm trying to figure out my next step as a new author. And here's an author on the show that's done it. There's something that that could really encourage somebody listening today. What would have been helpful for you to hear before you wrote A Judge's Tale? What would have been helpful to hear from another author?
The first thing, I suppose, is that you can take a class to learn how to do this. I had done a lot of writing, but it was legal writing, very different. I'd interviewed people and things like that, but I had not written a memoir. So I decided to write a memoir. And there are classes where you can learn how to write a memoir. And that's the best thing to do. Whatever kind of writing you want to do, there are classes on how to do it. And that is a great way to start. I actually started writing before I learned about the class and took it. But I did go take the class. It would have been even more helpful to take the class first because I was writing a lot of stuff that just wasn't going to work in a memoir. So that was the first thing I would say. Another thing I had to learn was how to organize my work. Writing a memoir, or probably writing anything, I would do all of these Word documents on my laptop. And I know I have way over 100 documents that I wrote trying to write this. I'd start with something and I'd change it and I'd have different documents for different chapters. And I didn't know how to organize it. It was a disaster. And then finally I had an editor who said, you need to date them. The way you can keep track of what is your newest draft is you need in your subject line to put a date. And what I would do is use like 1.1.26 for January 1st, 2026. But dating was the biggest help. So then you could tell what was the newest. And so that helped a lot, organizing files. I hadn't thought of that. And then to write a memoir, you have to do a lot of research. So it took me 5 years to write this book and to get it out. I mean, it was 5 years later that it finally came out. And it took tons of research. I did all kinds of ways. I was online. I called friends and people I knew from the past and just looked up things all kinds of ways. And then you have to organize that and put those in files because I ended up with so many files and I couldn't remember now. Where was the information about how many people were on the court in 1976? Stuff like that. So you need to find a way to organize. And then as an author, you need to get a publisher, or you can self-publish, but there's advantages to each. And I end up going with a hybrid publisher. And then getting editors, and some editors are better than others. You want to find an editor that you can work with, who is your style, because once I got the publisher, they give us a list of editors to choose from. And the first one I chose was just not like me at all. I mean, it was like she just probably a different generation, just a different kind of lingo or language. So I said, thank you very much. And I paid her and I went and got another one who was fantastic. Sometimes you think, oh, I'm a new author. I just can't go around changing editors, but you can. And you find somebody who's fantastic.
Right.
That you can work with. Yeah, who's good for you. It's style.
Okay, so your background, there's a lot of writing in what you do, a lot of legalese and a lot of factual things, and everything is not, there's not a lot of feelings, I would think, in what you write. You're writing facts and everything is every word counts, I would believe, in what you do in your career.
Right.
And now you have some flexibility as an author to start adding some of the feelings and some of the background and some more information to what you're writing. So it's a totally different type of writing.
Exactly. Totally different. As a lawyer and a judge, nobody cared how I felt. It was not important. What you had to focus on was the facts and the law. You analyzed it. You had to analyze it to apply the law. But it was facts and law. We never talked about how we felt. So I went to take this class on writing, and she said, well, how did you feel when that happened? And I said, I don't know, because I was not in touch with my feelings at all. And I think as a judge, I was intentionally not in touch with my feelings because there were so many sad things I saw, so many tragedies. How do you deal with parents of a murdered child? That is so emotional. And as a judge, and even as a lawyer, we had to, but especially as a judge, we had to make sure that we stayed objective and did not get too involved emotionally. In order to do the job, you had to make sure you didn't get sidetracked with the emotions. You had to stay objective and calm and detached because we had to do justice for both sides. And so it's so totally different. So I'm writing this memoir, and the teacher in this class says, you've got to figure out what your feelings were, and then you have to describe them. And it was like starting over in life. I thought, but I did. I figured it
Yeah.
out. Those were a lot of
Wow.
bad feelings sometimes,
Yeah.
But so it was amazing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, because I can't imagine having someone in as a lawyer, as a judge, being super emotional and then like putting yourself into the story and like really not being objective in that moment because you're just so caught up with the story and the connection with the people in front of you and the people you're helping. You're probably more harm than good in that moment if you put all of you
emotional.
in and you're not listening. You're not pulling in all the information. You're just so fixated on your connection with that person and the story, right? That's almost dangerous.
Well, right, and some you could get all involved in one side, and you haven't heard the other side yet, and then you can get totally swung the other way. So you have to stay back, detached enough to be able to do that. It's and also see we're protecting ourselves, I think, because it would be so exhausting if you got too emotionally involved with the people. It's like you can't help them if you're going to get too emotionally involved. You have to stay detached and calm enough. Not that we're totally unmoved by it. Obviously, we see things that are very tragic, and it does impact us. But we sure don't. I didn't, at least, want to focus on my emotions because there were all these other things I had to focus on.
Yeah. So when did your legal career begin as a lawyer? How old were you when you first started?
Oh, that's a good question. It was 1968. I was 24.
24.
Right.
Okay. So you were in school for how long then before that?
Well, I did. You have to get your bachelor's degree, and then it took 3 years to get a law degree. But I did my undergraduate. There's a special program at my university where I could do my undergraduate in 3 years, and then my law degree in 3 years. So I did it in a total of 6 years instead of 7.
Wow.
And I was tired of being poor, so I was anxious to get out and get a job. So I liked that.
Yeah. Wow. So at what point, serving in the capacity of a lawyer, did you look at the bench and the judge sitting in front of you and go, that's next. I'm going to be up there someday. I'm going to take that seat. When did that realization come for you?
Not for a very long time, because at that time there were hardly any women judges. They were we had one woman judge in the county of San Diego when I became a lawyer in 1968, and she had been the only one in history. And it was on the municipal court. There were 2 state courts. The municipal court was the lower court, and then the superior court was the higher. She was on the municipal court for 18 years, I believe it was. Her name was Madge Bradley. But it was so rare. And typically, I thought to be a judge, you had to have political connections. I had no political connections. And it was something that just didn't even cross my mind. But what happened is, as a trial lawyer, I had some bad experiences with some judges who were giving me a very difficult time. They were not doing their job properly. And, I wondered, was it because I was a woman, or was it because I was fighting consumer fraud, trying to protect people? What was it? It was hard to tell, because a lot of the judges then have been representing big corporations. And here I came along as an advocate to fight consumer fraud. And I was one of the few women trial attorneys. So I got a really hard time from one judge in particular. And it makes you so mad. You think they need to be doing their job right. I mean, he didn't even follow the law. It just really made me mad. And I thought, I could do 1,000 times better than what he did. But I still didn't think about it until one day we had a number of young women, of not when I say a number, probably like three or four young women lawyers, and we were saying we need more women judges. This is the men are not treating us with the same respect they're treating men.
Yeah.
The male judges are not treating
Yeah.
us with the same respect they're treating the male lawyers. And we just said we really need more women judges, but we didn't know how to do that. And then one woman lawyer who was more politically astute said, well, did you put your name in? Did you submit your name to the governor? And I said, no. Why would I? And she said, well, you can't complain if you don't put your name in.
Oh,
If you don't
okay.
submit your, and I thought, I love complaining. So I submitted my name. And that is how it happened. Of course, I didn't think anything would happen because I had no political connections.
Yeah.
I was just, but there were a few things on my side. I had become quite well known from being a fighter of consumer fraud as a prosecutor and working for legal aid. And I was on the County Bar Association Board of Directors. And I was only the third woman in history elected to that board. So
Wow.
there were a few things that were probably in my favor.
Okay. Because that's a big. Not every lawyer becomes a judge, so that's obvious. Because there'd be a lot of judges because there's a lot of lawyers.
Right.
So that path doesn't seem to be a logical. If I become a lawyer, I'm destined to be a judge.
Right.
So it takes somebody special to be in that role because you're not just doing one part of it, you're responsible for all of it. My question is it lonely being a judge? Because lawyers can hang out with lawyers. Do judges have like a judges club where you guys all hang out after work and talk shop? Or because it seems like lawyers are kind of to themselves. They really don't have a circle around them. Like lawyers have like a whole row of lawyers at a table together. You're by yourself up there.
Pretty much.
Is it lonely? Is it lonely then?
It was for me, especially
Okay.
at first, because I was the youngest judge in the
Yeah.
state. I was 31. Most of the judges were much
31.
older. Right. Most were much older. But you know, and I would have loved to have done it when I was older. But you can't do that. I mean, you get the chance and you'd have to take it. When they offered it to me, I sure took it mostly because I felt we had this great need to have more women judges who would be fair to everybody, including to the women, but not biased for either side, but to be fair to everybody. So, yeah, I took it, but it is lonely, and it was especially lonely for me. Now, as more people were appointed closer to my age, which is what happened, it was less lonely. And then I developed friends on the bench. But at first, they didn't ask me to lunch. I didn't ask them to lunch. They were much older, and I'd always been used to calling them Your Honor, and I'd never known them as equals. But then as new judges came along, it was much less lonely. But still, being a trial court judge, you are sitting alone in that courtroom making all the rulings. And everybody's working all day long in their own courtroom. So you do not have a lot of opportunity to get together and talk as judges. As lawyers, we had great camaraderie. I absolutely love being a lawyer. We'd be sitting there together waiting to have our cases heard, and we'd be talking to each other about everything. We'd share all kinds of information and support. It was wonderful. It was this great camaraderie as a lawyer. We talk about the judges and, what they'd done and what we can expect. It was great. And so that was a huge change when I became a judge. But over the years, it did become better. But it definitely, and on the Court of Appeals, see, then you have more justices hearing cases together, so it's a little bit different. But in the trial court, you are alone, pretty much, sitting there.
Like, would people that you had worked with or been associated with before becoming a lawyer then now be in your courtroom with you? Like, is that a dynamic that kind of unfolded for you as well?
That is something I worried about. So I quit my social contacts with all these lawyer friends who could appear in front of me or their firm could appear in front of me. So I did. I felt like that wouldn't be fair to the other side. So I really
Wow.
did. Yeah, that was hard.
That's another layer of loneliness then,
Right. That
right?
is. But I just think you have to, because who wants to
Yeah.
appear in front of a judge who had lunch with one of the lawyers on the other side the day before?
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Okay.
changed.
Okay. Another question I just need to know because I'm so curious. How much information do you know about the case in front of you before the lawyers start presenting their sides? Because I see on TV and I see like on the news, like the judge might be sitting with a laptop on your desk and they're looking at stuff, they're listening and they're looking. Like how much you're not hearing about the details of the case in the moment for the first time, I would believe.
It,
Are
it,
you?
it depends on the case.
Okay.
So typically, and different states can be different, but
Yeah.
typically there's a court file.
Okay.
So there's a file in the case. And in a civil case, you have the pleadings with the complaint and the answer. And we look at those ahead of time to know what the
Okay.
pleadings are and what the issues are. And quite often they will file something, and they'll file briefs for the trial. And they will want us to read that. They typically are often done ahead of time to prepare us to save time in court. So we read those. In a criminal case, there are also pleadings. They don't have nearly as much detail in a criminal case, but we look at that to see what the charges are. You can see the history of the case. But basically, to know, for criminal cases, you have to see the complaint to know the charges. And then
Okay.
you know what they've pled guilty to or not guilty to. And typically they've pled not guilty if it's in front of you for trial. We
Right.
do have papers, but we have to make sure that everything we see is what we're supposed to see, and we're not seeing anything else. And the lawyers have to know what we're seeing. So it's all very transparent.
Okay. Because I would not think you would come to a new case to be tried and you already have an opinion
Right.
about where you're heading
Can't do
before you've
that.
even heard you can't, right?
Right. That's just, and I teach judges in the California Judicial College and the National Judicial College, and that's something we focus on, is that we have to keep an open mind. Right. You cannot. You don't want to reach an opinion too fast. You need to wait until you've heard all the evidence, and then you do have to come to a conclusion. Some people have trouble reaching a conclusion ever, but you need to make sure that you've given both sides a fair hearing and an opportunity to be heard and all of their evidence. You can be surprised. You might hear one side and think, oh, gee, that's a great case, they should win. But then you hear the other side and you could totally see that that's wrong and change your mind. So you have to wait until you hear it all.
We all have a bias.
Right.
We all have our own personal beliefs. We all have our own ethics. We all have our own life story. How do you separate your own personal bias from a judgment?
And that's one of the things we focused on in education for judges also, is we do have biases. We get them often from our parents or people around us, and we have to become aware of those and set them aside. You have to know that it's so common to have some kind of a bias. It could be from an experience or something you've heard. So you have to become aware of it and set it aside and make sure that you're not influenced by it.
Yeah. Like I could just imagine somebody walks into your courtroom and they remind you of somebody. Maybe somebody that's hurt you. Maybe somebody that's a bad memory for you. This person has no connection with that memory at all. They have no idea you're even experiencing this in the moment. But they look like the person. They remind you there's something about them that makes you gonna go, oh, this is not good. They have the same mustache, they walk the same way. There's something about them that you just like, it hits you, right?
But it's
you
not
have to be able, right? You have to be able to separate yourself from it.
Right, you do. And you have to make sure that in your courtroom, there is no bias or discrimination based on anything like race or religion or gender or age.
Yeah.
Right, that we all have to work at that. That's our job as judges, is to make sure that there is no prejudice in the courtroom.
Yeah. One thing I talk to a lot of authors on this show, we talk a lot about, like, who cares what I have to say? Who cares what I have to write? Like, why would anybody read my book? It's like imposter syndrome. It's something that people wrestle with in all kinds of aspects. At 31 years of age, sitting there trying cases, did you ever just kind of sit there when there was like a moment where you could just sit and think and go, somebody's going to figure out I'm not supposed to be here right now at 31. Like, I'm taking somebody's seat and somebody's going to go, wait a minute. You're not supposed to be up there, right? You're too young. You're too this. You're too that. Did you ever have that moment where you're just like, I feel like I'm fooling everybody, but I know I'm supposed to be here?
Right. I knew I was supposed to be there. I didn't feel like I was fooling everybody. By then, I had represented so many people, like really poor people and people who have been disenfranchised, people who couldn't afford to have a lawyer and to have their rights upheld. And when you see all of this, you get dedicated to doing what's right. And I was already dedicated. I'd been a victim of crimes. And those left me with the knowledge that you need to have fairness. You need to give people their day in court. And I was so dedicated to helping these people that I'd already seen suffering so terribly, and that I knew as a victim of crime can be so terrible. So I really was dedicated to the cause. And I'd already seen these judges who had not been fair to women lawyers or people because of different things. Most of the judges were fantastic, I have to tell you. They are really good. But I had seen enough to be really inspired to do better. And I knew what it took to do it. So I didn't really feel like an imposter, but I do know that a lot of people had a hard time accepting me as a judge because I was so young, and that it would have been easier if I was older. But I didn't have that option. There just weren't a lot of women lawyers around with trial court experience to choose from for judges, probably. So and I wanted women judges so badly. What I saw was, as a victim of crime, when I was pretty young, before I was a lawyer, that men were running everything. They were all the police officers, they were all the lawyers, they were all the judges. And I felt like I didn't get justice. And the thing I noticed is that when you have women in positions of power, like lawyers and judges, women are more likely to get justice. We want justice for everybody. And I just felt it was extremely important that women are in positions of authority like that, to make sure that women are understood and heard and have a fair chance to present their case. It doesn't mean that women are always right or always wrong. It's just that somebody needs to give them a chance to be heard with an open mind.
Yeah. When you're trying a case and you're hearing all the testimony and the back and forth, was there like moments where you're like, hey, this situation's unique. I need a moment to do some thinking, research about this. Like, we don't know everything as human beings. There are things we're learning in real time. Were you confronted with situations where you had to take a recess type thing and go and do some more work and then come back? Like, how do you know and be the voice in that room for everything and have all the answers and be able to be in charge and run that room, run your courtroom? Did you ever have to take a step back?
Yes.
Sometimes, and just
definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Because I get this view of a judge as the all-knowing, that you can't get them off on things that they don't know. They just seem to know everything.
But that could be fiction. I mean, what you see on TV and movies and books is fiction, right? Yeah. So in real life, there are the easy cases and then there are the hard cases. And sometimes you just have to stop and take a recess, like you said, and in the hard cases. And you may have to research the law And you can ask the lawyers for the law because they can be very helpful. They can help give you the law, and they can help present the facts and the evidence. But sometimes you just need to take time to step back and look at it. And that's why I always like to read everything like the day ahead, if I could, whatever I had, so I could think about it overnight and have some time to think about it. That can be very helpful on the difficult cases. The easy cases, no, but there's still a lot of difficult cases.
Yeah.
And you definitely do need times when you have to try to figure it out. And we are not all knowing. We are not all powerful. We are
Right.
human beings doing our best. And at least when we're doing our best and we know that we have to try to be fair and not be biased against anybody, then when you know this and you're doing your best to do, and you work really hard and read all the law, you read all the cases, that's the best you can do. And then there's a safety net. There's a court of appeals. So if we
Right.
screw up, and I got to
Yeah.
sit on the court of appeals for a couple of months, and it was really interesting. So if we do screw up, they can catch it. And then there are higher courts. As long as you have good judges and good justices who are trying hard and they're right and they're being fair to both sides, it should work. It's a good
Okay.
system. It's as good a system as I've seen.
This is fascinating. I love having time with you to talk about this stuff because you're answering all my questions and I'm feeling I'm getting it all out. This is really good. So let's talk about the book. Like, who would you say do you have in mind as an ideal reader? When we write memoirs, there's a tricky balance between sharing your stories and trying to reach an audience at the same time. Who do you have in mind that you think would be your ideal reader for your book?
I thought that it would be women. And I thought older women like me, because they would remember a lot of these things and say, oh, yes, that's what it was like. That's what we went through. And I've heard that from people who've read it. And then I thought young women, because they can say, oh, that's what I need to watch out for. That's something I can learn from so I can avoid suffering the same unpleasant experience. So there's things that can be learned. And there's so many young women who don't know what it was like 50 years ago when I was going through this. And so it's really helpful. It's like learning a whole new life. And instead of just saying, oh, this happened, it's a book. So I've got some depth in there so they can get a
Right.
feeling for what it's like. When I read books, it's printed on my heart. It isn't just something that just goes in one ear and out the other. It's something that stays with you because you've read the entire book of about 300 pages and you have more of a feeling for it. So I think it's really important, which is why I wrote the book.
Wow. I've been reading through some of the reviews and things posted on your website around the book, some amazing comments from people praising and giving you some great feedback on your book. What kind of feedback have you heard from a reader that really stuck with you, where that was pretty meaningful to hear?
Okay, I like the fact that they appreciate my humor because I think humor is important. And like one said, even though such horrible things happened to me, I never lost my optimism or my humor. And so that it was pleasant. I mean, it wasn't a horrible read, and it's a quick read. They say it's an easy read, and that made me feel good. But they appreciated the fact that I wasn't just being doom and gloom. There was so many positive and humorous things that you can find anywhere. That made me feel good. And they said how brave I was and courageous and stuff, which I didn't think of at the time. I just was, you don't think that, well, at least I didn't think that at the time. I just kept trying to right the wrongs. And
Wow.
sometimes it was so overwhelming. Like when I was challenged in an election from my seat 2 years after I was appointed, so I was 33. I had a 2-year-old at home. I was pregnant with my second child. I was working full-time as a judge, trying to do a good job and feeling a lot of pressure on me because I was a young woman. Almost all the judges were men. So I did feel a lot of pressure. I just felt like I had to do everything perfectly, which is not possible, of course. And then I get this election with a campaign, and these two guys who challenged me, they were self-employed. Evidently, they didn't have to be anywhere at any time. I had to be in the courtroom from 8 to 5 every day, not them. They were spending money and having press conferences, and especially one, and attacking me constantly. And it was just, that was a hard time. That was a hard 6 months. Um, yeah. So that was kind of started the book with just before the election and ended it with the election, because that was a key time and a real challenge. And it's a good thing I was young, because I'll tell you, I needed energy.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot going on at the same time.
It
My
is.
goodness. Was there a judge for you that came alongside of you early days as you took your space and took your spot that really helped mentor you and encouraged you on your journey as well?
My greatest encouragement came from Madge Bradley, who was the first female judge ever in
There
San
you go.
Diego. And she's became a judge. Well, I should remember the year. I can't remember, but she retired in 1971, and she was a judge, I think, for 16 years, I think is what she told me. So and when she was a judge, she was the only female judge the entire time in the whole county. And there just weren't any others. It must have been so lonely. She never got married, Dave. She never had kids. I don't know how I wouldn't want to give that up. It was very important to me to get married and have kids and have a family. But she was amazing. But she was the nicest woman. So I volunteered to work for the County Bar Association magazine. It was called Dicta then. And so one of my first jobs was to interview her before she retired. So in 1971, I interviewed her, and she invited me to her home. And we sat in her home with her Oriental rugs and her antique furniture, and she was just the sweetest lady. And that was the nicest thing for me for being a judge, was I always remembered her, even though she retired in 71 and I wasn't appointed until 5 years later. But still, she was still alive, and she was the major one. I don't think I would have even found being a judge appealing if I hadn't known somebody that nice and a woman. It was just lovely, and she was so good to me. So treated me with respect and kindness.
Wow. Wow. And on top of this, you mentioned to me when we chatted before that you've done your audiobook version of this as well. And you got to voice the audiobook for your own book.
Yes.
What's that like for you to now read out loud the words that you wrote? Like, that must have been interesting for you as well.
It was great. And I found a good studio, and this female tech who had done narrated books herself, who was just excellent. And I felt like, why should anybody else read my words? They're my words, and I know how I meant them. And somebody else, another reader, would just be trying to guess, how it is. So I really felt like I was delighted to have the opportunity, because I knew the feeling behind them. It was a pleasure. I got worried that I wasn't doing a good job sometimes, and I'd listen back and I thought, whoa, that's the book, that's me. But then, because you need your energy too. You can't go on for too long. You have to, do it when your energy level's high. But it was fun, and I love it. And my son has it. He got the audio book, and he says, "Oh, this is great, Mom. I can listen to you anytime I want." And here you do your book. So he listens off and on different times. I think that's neat. So it'll be there forever for my kids and grandkids, and in my words. In my voice.
It's amazing legacy. I love that. Let's spin this around, and a young future judge is sitting with you to ask you some questions about your story, your career, your background, and the same impact that judge had for you when you were younger Now you get to be the one to answer the questions now instead of asking the questions. What kind of things would you say to somebody who's looking at you going, I want to go from where I am to where you are. I want to be up there where you are. What kind of encouragement do you have for that person that's listening right now? Because they're listening. They have your book. This is their journey. This is their goal. And
That's
you mentioned that was really impactful for you, but I'd love for you to share with that person listening about their journey.
right. You figure out what you want to do. I had a great passion for helping people. I saw people needed help. And I really did feel like my first job as a lawyer was for Legal Aid of San Diego, which represented low income, very low income people in civil cases. And and I saw how much they needed help, or else they would be devastated. I mean, they couldn't even support their kids. So you get it caused like that. You find out what's important. You develop your passion for something. And that was my passion, was to help all these people, including women and children and people with low incomes. And then you find a way to do that. So it's so great that you can be a lawyer and go to law school and get the tools to make a difference and represent people in court. And as long as our courts function fairly, this will work. And you can work hard in law school. You want to excel. You'll always want to excel. And then you can become a lawyer. And to me, see, there were some of my friends who became lawyers and made a lot of money. They worked for the big law firms. They had the rich clients, and they made a lot of money. That just wasn't what I was looking for. I was looking to help people who needed help and who probably couldn't afford it otherwise.
Right.
But so you get your passion, then you learn to excel at it. You become a good lawyer. You have to remember that your reputation is everything. You have to make sure that everything you do is something that you wouldn't mind seeing on the front page of the newspaper the next day. So you really have to watch your ethics. Everything you do as a lawyer is something that stays with you and can keep you from becoming a judge or help you become a judge. So you have to live your life like that. And I got involved in the County Bar Association and doing projects for them. I got involved in rehabilitation centers for addicts, things for helping children and young girls. And I got involved in a lot of charities. And I got involved in the type 1 diabetes research community because I have a child with type 1 diabetes. I got involved in that. You get your causes, you choose them well, you go after those, and that's how you get recognized. And I was the lawyers elected me to the County Bar Association Board of Directors, which was a great honor. And I think that probably helped. I had no idea at the time that it might help, but in hindsight, I think that probably helped the governor choose me. And then and then you just give them, you have to submit your name, and they do a huge screening. And but if you live your life, especially as a lawyer, in a way where you're really helping make the community better, and you show your concern for people, and you work hard, and you excel. Like when I was prosecuting consumer fraud cases for the city attorney's office, I never lost a case. There were 2 newspaper reporters from the local newspapers, and they were talking to me in the hallway one day, and they said, you know, you're the topless prosecutor. And I was appropriately offended. And I said, what do you mean I'm always appropriately dressed? And they said, no, you're topless because you've never been topped. You've never lost a case. They kept track of, and I had a lot of cases, and they kept track of all of my cases. And I never lost a case. So when you can demonstrate that you know what you're doing, that helps too.
Wow. Protect your name.
Yeah.
Protect your reputation.
Yes.
Treat people with kindness.
Yes.
Support your community. Those are all key parts.
Treat people with kindness and respect.
Right.
You never know when somebody is you'll cross paths again. It will be so important.
That's great. I like it. Janet, for people that want to find out more about you, the book, they want to connect with you, again, your website's beautiful.
Thank you.
Can you send people to your website? Can you tell us a little bit more about your site?
The website is www.janetkintner, and my last name is spelled really funny, KINTNER.com. So janetkintner.com. That's my website, right? And then I have some other little things in social media, but they're all listed there on my website too.
Excellent. Yeah, and I see event tab here. You can buy the book. Your blog is here as well. Lots of great information.
Right.
Love
Thanks
everyone to go right and check that out. Janet, my podcast is Living the Next Chapter. So my question to you, this book is out. We're excited for this. How are you living your next chapter now that this book is out?
I'm writing another book.
Well, there you go.
And
just like that.
Yes. And I think it's an addiction, writing. So it's like hard to give up. So we'll see. And I was torn between, writing a sequel, because this only took me through my career to 1978. So it didn't have the rest of my career. But I decided I think fiction is going to be more fun. And as another author pointed out to me, when you write fiction, and unlike with your memoir, now you can say all the things you wish you'd said and do all the things you wish you'd done. Create the perfect life.
There you go. Right. You have the permission. Yes. There you go. Oh, I like it. Yeah, this is really great to have you on. Thank you again for clearing up a lot of my misconceptions and questions around your role and the amazing way that you served your community. It's a thrill to have you here. And thank you for all that you've done for the people you've served and the people that have stood in front of you looking for safety and support and justice to stand before you and know that they have someone who really cares for them from their community there to support them. Thank you for all that you've done.
Oh, Dave, thank you.
Thank you for writing this book and for making time for us.
It's a pleasure. It's lovely talking with you. It's been wonderful meeting you. Thank you so much.
So can we adjourn then?
I would say court is adjourned.
Court is adjourned. Did you get to keep your gavel? Did you get to use that?
It. Oh, yeah, you keep it because you have to buy it. Oh, yeah, you have to buy it.
You have to buy it.
You buy your robe, you buy your gavel. Yeah.
There you go. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. Come back.
My pleasure.
As you write your next book, come back. I'd love to have you back again.
Thank you, Dave.
Excellent. Everyone, all information is always in the show notes. Make sure you go and check out Janet's website, grab a copy of the book. You know someone else who also wants this, so buy an extra copy for them and leave a great review as well.
Great.
Wherever you purchase it, tell people why you love this book so much. And if anything we've talked about today has resonated with you, please go and check out the book and reach out to Janet as well. I know she'd love to hear from you.
Yes.
So please,
they can do that on my website. Great.
Beautiful. Janet, thank you so much. Appreciate
thank you, Dave. Oh, my pleasure.
Okay. Hey, thank you so much again for pressing play. As you've heard, great guests on the show. And one thing you didn't hear in this conversation is what? What did you not hear? Think about it for a second. That's right. Not a single solitary commercial for a mattress or a supplement or a whatever you call it. No. Why? Because we don't want to break up the conversation with commercials. So the fact that you're still here means that you are a fan of the show, I'm assuming. So if you want to help to keep the podcast going and to make me feel really happy, all I really care about is coffee, okay? I just got to be honest. I love coffee. I'm drinking one right now. It's starting to get cold. I need to warm it up. Helping us with our Buy Me a Coffee link over at livingthenextchapter.com and also in the show notes helps kind of keep the lights on around here. Remember, I'm doing this for free. I'm paying for everything. So I would love to have a little coffee donation, even $5 kind of fills up my cup. And I would love to enjoy a coffee from you. So if you're interested, again, thank you for listening. But you can use our Buy Me a Coffee link and fill up the cup. Thanks for being here.